Norris, if you don't mind, just walk us through all the projects that you got on the table. And, I've had the opportunity and benefit of sitting on the executive committee and on the board of directors, and I hear it a lot, so much so that I think that everybody knows it. But I think the truth is something different. Most folks don't really understand the impact that you, your department, your team are having on economic development, and the impact of bringing in things like CSX has had on us.
Right.
And then, I want to hear about that, and then I want to hear a little bit about what we can do to really try to advance the ball.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the Carolina Connector is a gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
That is a great project, as you've heard us say many, many times. The fact that it's out there now has put us on the radar screen of everybody around the world that wants to do economic development projects. And so as a result of that, we're seeing what everybody told us, and quite frankly, I wasn't sure I believed everything they were telling me about. It's going to bust wide open for you
Right.
as soon as that thing's up and running. Well, sure enough, that's what's happened. We got people coming in now from all over the U.S. and occasionally an international client that comes in and says, I want to be near where your intermodal is.
Okay.
And the advantage we've got right here that the intermodal helps us create even more advantage out of is that the infrastructure opportunity in this right here in Rocky Mount is better than anywhere else in North Carolina. We got the highways. We're halfway between New York and Miami. We are 2 hours from Norfolk, 2 hours from Wilmington, 3.5 hours from Charleston, 4.5 hours from Savannah. And so if you look at that, you say, well, what's magic about that? Well, what's magic about it is all that infrastructure allows you to get to the customer quicker.
Right.
And cheaper.
Right.
And I do believe the economics of the intermodal is going to create some tremendous opportunities for us. We're looking now at more projects in Rocky Mount in our region, which is Rocky Mount, Nashville, Edgecombe County, and Tarboro. We're looking at more projects than we have ever had on the books.
Right.
In the last 25 years anyway. So when you look at that, you say, okay, with 70, I think it's 76 projects, not 78. With 76 projects, how many of those are you going to close?
Right.
Well, I think we're going to close, in this year, I think we'll close 10% of them.
Right.
8, 9 projects. We got 5 projects that we're working on that we will close between now and June.
That's impressive.
And we got 2 or 3 more that if everything falls right for the client and us, we'll close on them before year end. So we're looking at 8 to 10 projects this year. 8 to 10 projects out of the bag that we've got. You're looking at somewhere around $350 million in investment.
Right.
Well, for the one of the poorest areas of the state, and we are, unfortunately, for one of the poorest areas of the state, that's pretty good.
Right. No, I think it's fantastic. Now, what is that total pipeline? I mean, it moves around, and I'm sure misquoting, but I remember $8 billion of capital investment. And
yeah, if we got
23,000 jobs if you hit them all.
Yeah, if we got them all, we're not. But if we got them all, we'd be looking at somewhere around $13 billion in investment and somewhere around 15,000 jobs.
That is just so amazing, considering even 20 years ago. The economic impact that CSX is having, really, really, really.
Well, there are several things, and as you've heard me say at executive committee meetings before, there are 4 or 5 things that are driving us. CSX, right at the top of the list. Carolina Connector.
Right.
That's right at the top of the list. But we're also being driven by the Rocky Mount Mills project.
Right.
Rocky Mount Mills gives us a certain element of class that we can market to a global market because all of our clients are global. We got a guy coming in here tomorrow, as a matter of fact, home base out of Florida. Well, that's kind of a different environment than what we got around Rocky Mount.
That's right.
So the Mills project, Rocky Mount Mills, is helping us. The fact that we've got really good, the Kingsborough Business Park, not us, but the consultants tell us it's the most ready business park in the southeastern part of the United States.
Is that right?
That means that we've got the 2,000 acres of land we got out there. Almost every acre of that land is ready to be built on. Some of it you got to do a little bit of prep work, but most of it is ready to be built on. You got water, you got sewer, you got dual sources of electricity, you got natural gas. The main highway is into the site. And then we're ringed on both sides by major highways, future I-87 and alternate 64 coming on the backside. So it's prime location.
Right.
The Tarboro Business Park, hot as it can be right now. We got one shell building in there, and we got 5 or 6 people looking at it as we speak.
So I've heard you say a couple things in our meetings. One is that all the dirt you have, you've got at least 3 lookers at it.
Yeah.
Which means that we've got a little bit of a scarcity in dirt. The other thing I've heard you say with some frequency is that, if we have the product in place, it'd be much easier to sell these jobs in the area. I'd like to explore those 2 ideas with you a little bit. Maybe somebody listening has some ideas or willing to pull out a pocket and maybe create some shell buildings. I don't know.
Well, the first thing that we're into an interesting environment right now, business-wise, in that almost every major customer we're talking to is looking to bring their supply chain back on shore in the U.S.
Right.
Most industry that I know anyway is sitting around with loads of money. There's plenty of cash around to move. And most of the industries we're talking to are saying to us, when I move, I want to be ready to move yesterday, not tomorrow.
Okay.
So that means I either need a building already built or I need a piece of land that's ready to be built on. I don't have time for an economic development organization to go out and find me a site. I want to go places where I got a site ready to go. Well, we're fortunate in that, as you've heard me say, we control about 3,500 acres of land between Edgecombe and Rocky Mount and Nashville and Tarboro, and we've got one shell building left.
Right.
Now, we do need shell building. We need buildings because we absolutely have sold all of our inventory of buildings.
Right. So what's kind of the size that people are looking for? What's if somebody comes to town, I 10,000 square feet, 100,000, a million?
Well, if you'd asked me that question 3 years ago, I'd have told you 50,000 square feet. The minimum size people are looking at today are looking for is 150,000 up to 300,000 square feet.
Wow.
I got 3 people right now that we're working with. One is looking at building 400,000 square feet. I got another one that's looking at building 2 300,000 square foot buildings.
Right.
We got another one that's going to build a 10,000 square foot building. So it's kind of all over the map, except that it is trending toward the larger size as opposed to the smaller size.
Right, I got you. So, and you're talking about really patrioting manufacturing a lot. It's a lot of the conversations you're having.
Right.
So go over that a little bit, because that's just interesting to me. Because I see it as an encouragement for our own economy and encouragement just in general.
Well, the interesting thing about the supply chain issue is that 2 things. One, industry is looking to come home.
Right.
For years and years and years, it went offshore because of the cost.
Right.
They thought the cost was cheaper, and of course the pandemic taught us differently.
Right.
When it shuts down, it shuts down. And all you got to do is look at the automobile industry and the availability of chips for the automobiles and trucks. I mean, we just don't have any. And it takes a long time to build a chip manufacturing operation, 3 to 5 years, and a lot of money, a lot of money. So that's driving it. The other thing that's driving it is time to market.
Mm-hmm.
People, industries that we're talking to right now become extremely sensitive about how long and how costly is it to get what they make to the ultimate consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And so having the supply chain on shore allows them to move faster.
Right.
And having a good logistics chain allows them to get to the end consumer quicker and at lower costs.
Right.
So fortunately, our intermodal came online at a time where we could really be helpful to all of the congestion that was going on at the ports around the U.S. Even San Diego and Savannah are using our intermodal, the Carolina Connector, to help alleviate the box, all of the excess boxes they got sitting around on their ports.
Right.
So some of those are coming up here to the Carolina Connector, which is a good thing for us.
That's a fabulous thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So several questions I have. One is, do you have any word on when I-87 is going to be completed? I know that because that's a big deal as part of a component of this project in economic development.
What they're having to do, it's probably a 10-year project minimum, because what they're having to do is go back and in order to get Interstate certified, you got to close off some access.
Right.
You can't have unlimited access to an interstate highway, and so what they're doing now is going back and slowly but surely closing off some of the accesses that they can get rid of, and not damage the flow of the traffic. So my guess is we're probably looking at past my time, at least 10 years.
I don't know about that, but nonetheless, not tomorrow. But
yeah.
but that would make a big difference. I mean, right now, for me to drive Norfolk takes about 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to beat it, but I really can't.
You can probably cut a half hour off once it's I-87.
Then it becomes as reachable as Raleigh, maybe not quite as much so, but very, very, very doable.
Right.
From that standpoint. So, well, that's good to know that it's in process. So the other thing that I keep hearing is labor.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody has labor today. We're creating jobs. So how are we going to fill those jobs? And one of the frustrations I have as mayor is I look at our unemployment rate, which is fairly high. Yeah. How do you connect this high unemployed population with some of these jobs that we have? Clearly, education's part of it. I know that you had started Ramp East, and I know that COVID probably had taken a little bite of that. But what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you thinking what do we need to do to try to ramp up and be prepared for that?
Well, first of all, there is no shortage of labor. There's plenty of laborers. There's plenty of employees out there. What we got to do is what we got to do is get them ready to take these jobs, and that means you got to promote them. They got to be good jobs.
Right.
And wages are coming up, as you know.
Right.
The other thing that you got to have is you got to have people who are trained to meet the new requirements of the workforce that we're looking at. Workforce technology is changing in that we're becoming more robotic.
Right.
So the skill base is changing a little bit, and so we got to get people trained for that. I was in a meeting all morning with HR directors from around our region. They all still have a significant shortfall of employees. They also are having some retention issues that they're having to work through, and we're helping them do that.
Sure.
Community colleges are stepping up to the bar and being very helpful to try to alleviate that problem. I'm convinced that we will be able to find the workers.
Mm-hmm.
If the jobs are good jobs, then they certainly got to be good jobs with health benefits and all that good stuff. And they got to be jobs that people are willing to go work in. The workforce, the complexion of the workforce has changed a lot since COVID. Mm-hmm. We had a consultant in the meeting with us this morning, and one of the things he told us was that the nature of what people are looking for in terms of employment is dramatically different today than it was 3 years ago.
Right.
He cited a study that he had just seen that said that 20% of the workforce says, I'm willing to take less pay. Don't want to work below a minimum wage, of course, but I'm willing to take less pay if I can get a job that more satisfies my personal needs.
Okay.
And so personal need, I said, okay, define that for me. What do you mean? Well, I want to be able to control my schedule a little more.
Okay.
I want to be sure that I got weekends off. If I need to get off to go take my child to the doctor, I want to know that I'm going to be allowed to do that without being penalized. Well, that's a big change over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, you didn't ask those kind of questions. You just did your job.
It's certainly not what it looked like when I entered the workforce.
No, and so I'd say that the complexion has changed. The workforce is also getting a little bit younger. Mm-hmm. The average population of the workforce that we've been looking at over the last 5 years is now more in the 30 to 50 range, as opposed to full 65 before you retire, that kind of thing.
Right.
And the 31-year-olds got different needs than the 51-year-olds got.
That's true.
So as we discussed at length this morning, we've got to figure out how do we deal with that and also keep the wheels of industry turning. Because at the end of the day, it's still the wheels of industry that pay the bills.
That's the tax base, and that's the everything.
Right. And if you don't have people that can keep the wheels of industry running, then you got a problem on tax base and all of the things you got to have to keep an economy moving.
Right. One thing I will mention, though, you've been a prophet. You've been saying for at least 4 years that we've been talking, we need housing. And folks have been pretty slow to react to that, but you know what? We need housing.
And we still do.
And we still do, and it's even more desperate. You know, the price is going up. Of course, we have a little bit of national inflation that's helping a little bit of that too,
Right.
but it's really the scarcity that's creating that.
That's right.
You know, Raleigh's busting at the seams. Are you seeing a whole lot of new housing starts? I know the Kingsborough area had some. I know Southern Nash County seeing some.
Tarborough's got a lot of in the area that we cover, which is Nashville, Rocky Mount, Tarboro, and Edgecombe County. We probably got upwards of 1,000 new houses under construction.
Okay.
That'll be finished sometime by the end of next year, not this year, next year.
Okay.
And I've been talking to developers this week who are looking for another couple of hundred acres of land to be able to build housing on. And so it's still happening. It's a slow process. The cost of building materials is up. Housing costs are up. But all of these houses that are being constructed, it's a mixed bag.
Right.
I've got a guy that we're dealing with right now that's interested in apartments.
Okay.
We've got a guy that's interested in patio homes.
Okay.
And then we got a lot of builders that are looking for individual homes on small lots, medium-sized lots, what have you. So it's the whole gamut of things. But we got a lot of housing that'll be coming on stream in the next 18 months.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
It is, because our inventory, as you said, our inventory is down to almost nothing.
I know.
We got down to, the realtors told me back maybe at the end of the year, we were down to like maybe 50 to 75 viable houses in Edgecombe and Nash.
That's right.
And you put a house on the market, and it was selling quickly.
My daughter's a realtor. Her problem is inventory. It's not buyers. It's just inventory.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. But anyway, so we can't have a conversation without talking about QVC. Obviously,
Right.
a great tragic event that occurred around Christmas time for our folks. I was delighted to see the governor came through with $4 million in relief.
Right.
I know that you were a driver in that, along with several others in the area. So I want to thank you for taking a leadership role in that. But walk through your conversations with QVC. Kind of where are they in their head, to the extent that you know, or the extent you feel, willing to share.
Yeah. Well, QVC is still in the discovery stage of trying to figure out what really did happen. Interesting thing about it, though, is that about 15% of that building did not get damaged to the point where it can't be used.
Right.
And so they are now bringing back up about 15% of that structure, and they're starting to use it some to help them move around product that's still out there that they got to get either back to the owner or out to a customer.
Right.
And so that's encouraging. They are in the demolition stage out there. They're starting to tear down the existing structure. About 1 million square feet, they got to tear it down and get rid of it so that they can build back. And at this stage of the game, they have not told us for certain that they are going to build back, but all the signals are positive. But they have not. That's not coming from them. That's coming from me. I believe that they will build back, and we're doing everything we can to try to help them and encourage them.
Right.
When you think about where they are, they've got a 30-acre solar farm that's still operational and producing power. Mm-hmm. They got about 15 acres of parking lot out there that's still viable, still usable. No, they didn't get damaged. 15% of the building is still usable, and they are starting to use it again. And so when you look at it purely from an investment standpoint, it looks like a pretty good deal to go build back where you were, because you got a lot of the infrastructure in place.
Well,
don't have to
and I certainly want to see them come back too. I mean, that's very, very, very important to our economy. But just in my own speculation, I guess self-fulfilled optimism. Where else are you going to find 1 million square feet close to an intermodal at the intersection of two interstates? It's a really hard thing to find on the East Coast in the Middle Atlantic, where a lot of most of the population of the country still lives on the East Coast.
Well, 20 years ago, when QVC built that facility the first time, when we landed that project 20 years ago, they made a very wise future decision. They put it in a location that fits all the bills you just described. It's in a logistics haven. I mean, you couldn't be in a better place to reach half of the country.
Right.
You can reach it out of here easily from here using either the highway system, the port system, or the train system. So it's it turned out to be a fantastic decision. I'm sure some smart QVC guy say, "Man, wasn't I smart?"
Yeah, exactly. You know he is. And if you don't believe me, listen.
And he was. You don't believe it? Ask me.
Exactly.
But we're confident that we're doing all the right things. That the state of North Carolina has deemed that site a brand new site.
Right.
And so when they do start to build, it'll be looked at as a brand new project, which means they'll be eligible for all the bells and whistles that the state can put on the table to help somebody build a new project,
that's a big deal.
That's a plus.
That's a big deal.
That's a plus.
Yeah.
And the governor came through with some money this week, NASA yesterday. That's going to help us with all the displaced workers that were out there, plus others in the area. So all of that's a very positive thing. And by the way, does not go unnoticed by the QVC management in Pennsylvania.
Right.
They know what we're doing. We meet regularly with the people that are out here at the site, and they are very, very conscious of all the things that we're doing. This community has done a really good job of embracing QVC, but I can't let that go by without saying QVC's done a really good job of embracing the 3,000 people that were working out there. They have really done a nice job of reaching out and embracing all those people to make as certain as they possibly can that they're well taken care of. Well, and that's happening, by the way. We're finding a lot of that workforce is finding good jobs.
Right. Well, and you know as well as I do, I mean, if you work in that publicly traded environment or a corporation of that size, it's awful easy just to write it off, do the Warren Act notice, write your severance check, and that's the end of it. We're moving on next. And they really haven't done that.
Not at all.
They really haven't done that. And that has been a good thing. And I'm sure if I'm living as a QVC ex-employee, I'm not feeling it quite the same way, but I've seen much different realities. And I am appreciative of QVC for what they've done.
I think they've really done a nice job. And we told them that. We told them that all the way up to their senior people in Westchester. They've really done a nice job, and we appreciate that. Eric Evans, who's the county manager in Edgecombe County, who's living close to it almost every day of his life, tells me that they are just phenomenal to work with.
Well, that's great. That's awesome to hear.
Very good news.
So we obviously got to mention Triangle Tire.
Yeah.
You can't not talk about that.
Do you really have to?
Well, yeah, everybody wants to know about it. And, but, I'm like you. Maybe we're the only two optimists left in the world, but I still believe it's happening. But it would just give us an update on that.
Well, we talk to our Triangle Tire colleagues in Weihai, China frequently.
Sure.
Their CFO, the CFO of the U.S. business lives here in the U.S., and so we see him and talk to him all the time. And we're constantly sending our friends in Weihai the message, we want you to build. When are you going to begin? However, we're not just sitting back and pollyannishly waiting for them to do that. We are also making arrangement that if they decide not to build, and they're coming up on some deadlines,
right?
April of 23, they are supposed to have a good portion of that facility out of the ground and getting ready to start running it in 23, 24, in that period time frame. If they decide not to build, I'm happy to tell you, we got a lot of people who would like to have that site.
Oh, sure.
Because we're being told, not only being told, we know it is the most ready to build on site in North Carolina, notwithstanding any of the other mega sites. That Kingsborough mega site, 400-acre site,
right? It
is literally ready to build on.
Well,
Scrape the grass off and go to work.
How many millions of dollars are sitting out there? I mean, it's a lot on the grading.
Well, North Carolina's put about $20 million into getting ready for the first half of that site to be built on.
Right. So what can the City of Rocky Mount do, the county's residents, to help Gateway's partnership advance the cause? I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate all that you're doing. So what can we do to help any more? Because, if you got somebody running, you want to provide the fuel and you want to help any way you can.
Well, I say to consultants and clients that call on us all the time, look, you could not be in a more helpful environment than we've got in this area. None of our political entities have given us a hard time about doing what you got to do to land an economic development project. When we come to City Council in Rocky Mount, we find a an audience that's ready to listen and ready to help.
Right.
And that is a very positive message to be able to give a client, to say to a client, hey, look, within reason, and as long as it's legal, if you got something that you need to have, let us know. We'll go to City Council, and more than likely we're going to get support. That's true with the Edgecombe Commissioners.
Right.
It's true with Nashville. It's true with the Tarboro Council. They're all ready to help and to my knowledge, since I've been here, I've not been to any of those entities with a proposal that made sense and had a reasonable return on investment when I was told no. That's a pretty good track record to be able to go to a client and say, tell me what you need, we'll go get it for you.
I can't promise it, but I've not seen
That's
it ever
right.
denied. And I can honestly say that as I've sat in a lot of those discussions, I don't know that there's ever been any real challenge to economic development. It's how can we help? Put us in, coach. If that's what you need, let's figure out how to make it happen. And
everybody recognizes that in order to build economic development builds jobs and tax base.
that's it.
And those are the two engines that drive the economies of any municipality, wherever it is.
Right.
And so the folks here bought into that story, and the return on investment's been pretty good, by the way.
It's been outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, look, Norris, I appreciate you coming. I really appreciate your time today and all that you're doing for us and the community. And I just love everything that you got going on.
Well,
And,
thank you for inviting me to come over. Invite me back. I'll be back.
You betcha.